So they have like each other by the throat right now.
The BRIC countries sit on around 70% of the actual metals and materials. But when it comes to the refining of it, China actually sits on about 90%. Do you think that's a sustainable situation for the West? Or do you think this will continue to be used as a pressure point between maybe BRICS or maybe just China and the West?
No, I think that no matter how these negotiations end, the West will, for the next 5 to 10 years, have a very focused program to get independent on outsiders for these materials. So just about the materials, there's, in spite of their name, they're not rare. There are lots of them, many places. What is rare right now is facilities to process them, and China has just built up this almost monopoly on that over the years, and they've done that by being willing to sustain the fairly polluting processes that are necessary. And also, when somebody in the West set up new companies to do this, they would dump whatever materials it was, so that the Western companies had to shut down. So you'll have the market, I think, will from now on be divided into two: a Western market which is subsidized by the governments, and so they will give price guarantees, and in some cases take equity stakes in these companies, and also intervene in the bureaucracy to give them the permissions that they want. Not all countries can do that because of how they are organized politically, but the US, Canada, Australia, at least, are already on it. So you also have two different price levels for these materials, and you've seen in the last weeks and days the prices of these mining companies, Western mining companies, shooting up. And so I've studied a lot the valuation of these companies. And it's a little bit tricky because when you look at, for instance, a rare earth ETF, a substantial part of the companies outside of China are losing money, and the ones that are making money are very expensive. But when people buy these ETF, apart from they are now meme shares, they make the calculation that the Western governments have to give these mining companies price guarantees that incentivize them to do this kind of mining. So, so in summary, I think that the West has been has learned a lesson and will not stop building their own independence from now on.
Yeah, we can just talk a little bit about what these rare earth materials actually go into. So one of the major things is actually that they reinforce kind of magnets. They make magnets a lot more powerful, which are needed in both like EVs. They are needed in more sophisticated robots. They're to some extent needed some of these materials in chips as well. So yeah, and one place they're needed a lot would be in defense. For example, the F-35 fighter jet. I think it's for like 400 kilos of rare earth materials in one jet. So I mean, it kind of seems that there could also be a strategic bet that China would say, we want to win in the industries where we're not leading right now. So do you think that could be a possibility, saying, we'll win the AI game, the advanced robotics game, the defense technology game, and simply restrict these materials to an extent where it will delay the West and the US significantly?
I think that can be kind of the calculation, and it completely mirrors what the US is doing on the access to NVIDIA chips, where they said China cannot buy in any of the best chips. So they can buy maybe five steps from the best. And so China say, yeah, but we will restrict you on other things. So just to be specific, I don't think that the rare earth really plays a major role in rolling out large language models, these foundational huge models. It's more in what you call embedded intelligence or physical AI, where you have machines that have lots and lots of magnets So autonomous robots and cars and whatnot. So they have like each other by the throat right now, and it really makes sense for both of them say that okay, I will help you if you help me. And I would not be entirely surprised if a trade deal is good for Nvidia and so allows Nvidia to sell more to the Chinese market.
But do you think that the Chinese might be able to think more long term than, for example, the US government? So, I mean, Trump, he wants to get reelected, so he doesn't want a recession, for example, or a stock market in terrible shape, right? Well, maybe Xi could afford to think 10 years ahead and say, we just want to win in the long term. So we want this trade war and we want to kind of cripple the West. Do you think there's a chance that maybe he want that, but maybe the big companies and people in business in China would not want that?
Let me just say, you said Trump wants to be reelected. We are some people who hope he doesn't want to be reelected. But the US actually have elections every second year because you have the midway terms and where typically the president loses some of his majorities and becomes a sitting duck. So any American president has a short-term pressure, and especially in the US, it's like 2-year timelines. They have 2-year increments. So yes, China is capable of enduring more pain politically than any Western government is. You could say the same about Russia. They can make their populations suffer a lot. But I think the Chinese leaders are also rational, and if they can see that there's some ways of having win-win, I think they will go for that. So I still believe that there's a high chance of an agreement, and we should remember that if it really gets tough, America has a lot up the sleeve. So first of all, U.S. exports to China is about half a percent of U.S. GDP. Chinese export to U.S. is 3% of GDP. If they lose that, I mean, in principle, if they entirely lose that export, it's about 20 million jobs or 15 million jobs that they lose. They've already got a critically high youth unemployment. China also needs access to the American banking system. So yeah, you can live without cooperation, but it's going to be expensive for both of them.